I want to say this clearly, that we have to draw the line on corruption in this country. We have to fight corruption, and it is a fight that we must win, and it is a fight that we must fight together.
Corruption, corruption, now we country ain't no good Hey. Corruption, corruption, now we country ain't no good Hey. Corruption, ain't no good I say corruption, corruption, ain't no good Together we forfeit this menace, now we country Yes, we will work hard for this.
So it's a privilege as the chairperson for today launching to actually welcome the Commissioner of the Anti-Corruption Commission of Sierra Leone, Francis Kaifala. Please stand up and give a standing ovation to
Let's summarize. It's fine. Thank you, thank you. Please sit down, please. Please have a seat. Please have a seat. Madam Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University, my dear friend, the Registrar, the students' favorite lecturer and disciplinarian, Dr. Lako, the Director of Public Education, President of Students Against Corruption, IPAM chapter, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, students, I greet you all. It's quite an honor to be here today to speak to you on something which you know I am very passionate about. And I believe you all are, because if not, you wouldn't have been here. Sitting down together, I see how the room is even not the capacity to accommodate all of us, but you have squeezed in. And I thank you all for this opportunity. Madam Chairperson, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, Sierra Leone has battled with the issue of corruption for a very long time. This is a battle that goes way back, for generations, where we believed that doing things the abnormal way is actually the normal way. And we have had leaders who have betrayed the social contract, who have let all of us down. Our society's values are problematic. And there are three value systems. You have high value societies. So that's why when Professor spoke about value, I told her, yes, one of the things I'm going to speak about is values. So we have high value societies. In high value societies, when somebody tells you that this is blue, it is actually blue. If they say this is white, it is white. If you greet them, you say, how are you doing? If they are not feeling fine, they say, I'm not okay today. But if they tell you I'm all right, they're all right. And we have the mid-value societies. Those societies, typically people say you read the air. You read the air in the room. You enter a room, you don't have to ask people how you are doing. If you ask them how you are doing, you will not get the answer you need. But you read the air in the room away from their answers, and then you know what is happening. Example, Japan is one of them. In a Japanese society, when you enter a room, in a meeting, if somebody says okay, you have to watch that person carefully to know whether okay actually means okay. Now we have a low value society. In a low value society, when somebody says yes, they actually mean no. When somebody says sit down, they actually means, my friend, you are not welcome here. When somebody says everything is all right, 10 chances. So in a low value society, dishonesty prevails. People are not honest with themselves. They do things that are not correct, and they expect other people to accept it as what it is. Now, the unfortunate situation which we have is all of us, including you, either grew up or are growing up in a low-value society. If we have to change that nationally, we have to remain committed to issues like ethics. So beyond issues like what we do, one of the components of fighting corruption is actually ensuring that we live within a value system. So at IPAM, there are values. Not so, Professor? There are values. When you came here, there are values. But if I take a survey in this room now, how many people know the values of IPAM? Is there a student who can tell us the values of IPAM? It will be difficult for anyone to do. Because one of the things that happen in a low-value society, you are not sure of what's happening. You may say, like Professor Lako was speaking, things about examination malpractice should not exist. But then what is the value that that examination malpractice principle is actually protecting? Therefore, all of you in this room have to understand that if Sierra Leone is to change, if the things we are doing have to be reformed, we have to first of all take a decision to be committed to our core values. One of them is integrity. And that is what I'm here to speak to you about. Integrity is very significant, even as a leader. When you lead anywhere, whether it's an institution, whether it is in your student union bodies, any group, when you as the leader lack integrity, you don't get respect. Except if you can use brute force, and then you make people to conform because you are threatening them. But that respect that you can get without asking for it, without threatening anybody, comes from the values you present. Whether you are somebody with high integrity, whether you are trustworthy, whether you are dependable. And I believe, as IPAM prides itself as an institution that is producing business leaders, managers, public leaders. What is your name? Institute of what? Public Administration. Even Frabe College does not have that name. And as I sit here, as I stand here now, I know that Frabe College does not even have a discipline that is public administration. Therefore, we in Sierra Leone depend on you to come out to become public administrators, to change the story of this country, to become what we have always wanted. And the foundation of that is discipline. The foundation of all of that is discipline. How we discipline ourselves. Firstly, discipline thinking, the things we think about as a people. If we think things in a disciplined way and we act on them, disciplined action, we take action within that disciplined framework. If we say nobody should commit examination malpractice, we set systems to make sure that nobody engages in it, we hold ourselves accountable under it, then we become disciplined people. And most times, disciplined people become people with integrity. In that light, the leaders of the SAC, IPAM, who organized this program, let us understand, as Oprah once says, real integrity is doing the right thing knowing that nobody is going to know whether you did it or not. So I have seen that universities now put cameras in the examination halls, not so. In fact, IPAM was the pioneers of that. So they put cameras over you to make sure you don't spy. It is good. It's called system. But really what determines whether you have integrity is what you do when that camera is not facing you. So as you leave here as students to go into the real world to become public administrators, business leaders, bankers, executives, the first question you ask yourself is, do I have to be looked to or at to do what is right? Integrity demands for all of us to create a high value society that nobody should run after us to do what is right. I just came back from studying. Most of the exams I took in my room. Exams in my room. High level exam, international economic law, international law, public international law, public policy. The exam, the university exam at Harvard, more than half of them, every student sits down in your room. The time is 8 p.m. You download, they tell you upload it at 4 p.m. And we all sign to an integrity code to say when you are taking that exam, you adhere to examination rules. And I can tell you this, it is very difficult for you to see somebody who will deviate. That is a high value society where trust is there. The lecturer can actually trust you that you will take your exam in your room and you are not going to cheat. Yes. Yes. I know. It is difficult for you to even believe that what I am saying is true. But I just came from Harvard Law School. And I can tell you it is true. Before that, I was in other universities in the US and in England. I can tell you it's perfectly true. So, what we all have to do is to understand, first of all, we have to de-psychologize ourselves. To understand that integrity is a life where your beliefs and intentions are aligned with your words and actions. In this country, the people who grumble a lot, I think it was Dr. Lako who said it. The ones who will say, they lecture and they corrupt, they lecture and they corrupt too much. They think that when they pass through, probably that person is the biggest spy. Every opportunity they have to be dishonest, they take it. Professor Conte Morgan was talking about the challenges we are facing. Like she was saying that no parent would come out to say, I actually paid a bribe for my child to be accepted. Now that is one of the biggest problems we have in the fight against corruption. We have cases, we investigate them. But it will not be me, Francis Ben Kaifala, who has to go to court to testify in court against the person we have investigated. If I do, I will be a formal witness, maybe go tender documents and things like that. We need citizens to come out and say, this person is a corrupt man. When I went to his office, I paid a bribe. One thing I can tell you is this. There are very few people who are willing to do that. Sometimes they even come to report to me. They sit down, they narrate the story. Amazing, fantastic corruption. And you now say, okay, what you have explained is good. I am going to arrest the person now. And tomorrow morning you are to make a statement. We actually go and arrest the person and bring them to the commission. In the morning you are calling them, oh, I am in fact my mother is sick. I am all the way in Kono. I don't think I will be coming to Freetown in the next 10 days. They are not willing to stand up for what is right. Their words are not aligned with their actions. And integrity demands that your words have to be aligned with your action. It is not a garment, but if you have it or lack it, people can see it. And as Students Against Corruption, you've set up this beautiful organization. Make sure you are the biggest examples at IPAM, because your colleagues will be watching you. You are emblems of what it should be of somebody who has integrity. You say things, you do them, your actions align, and then we can all create the fair society that we all need. And that is why in the Anti-Corruption Commission we understand. We understand that the value system of Sierra Leone has been eroded for so long that it will take time for things to change. There are two ways to change a society like this. Two ways. Sierra Leone, for example, if you want to change Sierra Leone now, it's either you take it slowly and do actions that will reform the minds of the citizens over a long period of time before the change can happen. But that is a slow, painful process, and most of us will have died and gone before it can happen. The other way we can do it is the cataclysmic way. You set rules, you set standards, you explain them to everybody, you hold everybody accountable directly, and you set in place brutal, very brutal disciplinary systems, whereby if somebody goes against the code, the typical saying that they say, kill dog before dog, let dog know say die day, and you are ready to kill the dog brutally, you will see a country like this will change in a very short time. But because we are not willing to do that, because all of us do the substitution effect, the first thing we tell ourselves is, what if not my uncle? What if it is my aunt? What is my brother? Because we know that our value system is low. Will I support such brutality? Will I support such a system that will change this society very fast? And that is how we erode all the systems. If professor wants to bring reforms, they go, hey, professor, take it easy. You know, this thing has been here for so long. This is how we have been doing it. Let's leave it. And with time, you overpower her. Because when everybody around her is telling her the same thing, hey, we have been advising you, professor, this is not how we do it. You can't rusticate 200 students at the same time. But trust me, a society like this, that's exactly what it needs. You rusticate 200 students at the same time. All of them, they go home, sit with their parents. Every other student who sees what has happened will advise themselves. And with such a discipline, we can create a system now to be educating along the way. Somebody said, the biggest public education is example. The things that we do. How we present ourselves. How the leaders conduct themselves. If lecturers are coming to you to say do not spy, they themselves should not be asking some students to be collecting 100,000 news so that they can give you A's and B's. And I have not heard of such a thing happening at IPAM yet. But there are other universities where I know this has been happening. Where lecturers have assigned students to collect money from students. And the higher you pay, the higher the grade you get. What kind of system are we creating if we can do that? How do you as a lecturer even stand before those students and tell them anything? But I am telling you, in this system, that happens. And we all have to stand up against it. And the Students Against Corruption are here today to invite you to something very simple. When you see something, say something. Turn to somebody and say, when you see something, say something. When you see something, say something. Do not sit on top of it. If we all are willing, in a 100% society like IPAM, a 100% literate society like IPAM, If we all stand firm against such common problems in society, we can fix them. I know it is tough. All of you who are reformers, who believe in change, will be fixed. You'll be faced with the Machiavelli's problem. There's a problem in philosophy called the Machiavelli's problem. Students ask questions about things that they are really interested in, and I am happy that, for example, the two questions that came are asking the same question about whistleblowing. What system do we have in place to protect whistleblowers, to give confidence to them? So, for example, we have a whistleblowing policy. In fact, it's in the Anti-Corruption Act. If, for example, you report corruption at IPAM, and somebody at IPAM retaliates against you, does something against you, we can prosecute that person summarily. We don't have to go through the normal process of investigation. We take the person, we charge the person the next day, and the court can find them guilty. Like an expedited process. Okay? But we also have a whistleblowing policy where we can give you protection. If the situation is so dangerous that we even have to change your identity, we have to take you out of the country, we'll take you out of the country. We can, if for example you are endangered in Freetown, we can move you temporarily somewhere under the cost of the state and protect you. But most importantly, we will make sure that we visibly protect you against the dangers that come with reporting. But, like I said, because the societal cynicism is so high, it is difficult to deal with. Because even when I'm speaking here, somebody is sitting down there saying, I hear you in the talk show. Because they are deploying filters that filter what we are saying, because we are living in a low-value society. Nobody trusts the words of another person. So even when they come, I remember there was this lady, we were doing an investigation recently, where they stole 55 billion euros through EcoBank. And there's a lady called Talu Jalo. In fact, she was a student here. She is now on the run. She's actually a student of IPAM. And it was through her account that some of this money was taken out. She didn't know. She was just an innocent conduit. Somebody asked her that I have a problem, I can't take out money. Can I use your account? She said, yes, use my account. It turned out that the money that they were taking out of that account was NRA money. 55 billion euros. Now, I know Talu. So once the investigation started and they came to me and said they wanted to put out a wanted notice, I looked at her picture and I said, I know this lady, Talu Jalo, I know her very well. I even have a number. And I sent her a message and she replied almost immediately and said, yes, in fact, I've been trying to call you. This thing, and she explained, she narrated the story, and I believe her. She was an innocent person. And then I told Talu, I said, look, you know me, right? I am Ben Kaifala. If I tell you that if you come back to Sierra Leone, you'll be protected, I have given you my word. Come back, we'll use you as witness against the people who were actually investigating, who actually benefited from this money. If you even benefited out of that money, maybe it's 2 million euros or 3 million euros to buy your makeup and all those things. It doesn't matter. So come back. She said, okay, let me consult my mother and get back to you. To date, she has never come back. She's in hiding in Guinea. So this is somebody who I know. And as commissioner, I gave her assurance and said, come back to Sierra Leone. Nothing will happen to you. She never came. So, my brother, what can I do? I can't do anything. And that investigation is ongoing. And she's a high-value witness because it is actually through her account. It is her, this man who stole this money. It is her she spoke to. Imagine her standing in court and saying this. It is not the same as when I say it. But if she's in Guinea, Conakry, Guinea, and does not come back to Sierra Leone to become a witness for us, we are in a problem. So why I'm giving you this real-life example is for you to understand the challenges we are facing when it comes to whistleblowing. But I can tell you, there are a lot of protections. And Cisse is asking about, okay, no, it's the same question. Both of you asked the same question. So the last question was I said that to change a society like this, there are two ways. One, you do it little by little over a long period of time. Okay? That is why when you do something, they say, hey, now for take it easy. You know, now small. Oh. Sometimes I'm even driving in traffic, and you see an old woman in her car. Mr. Kaifala, how are you? Oh, I'm doing fine, ma. Oh no, I like what you do. But take her easy, do ya? Take her easy, oh, take her easy. Because basically what they are saying is, I told you about the Machiavelli's problem. The reformer, she's saying it in my interest. Because corruption fights back. And when corruption is ready to fight back, what did I say? They change the reformer. And when I say change the reformer, there are two ways to change. Either they actually change you, that means you yourself join them and you become corrupt, or they remove you from the office and bring somebody else there. Okay? So when this old woman sitting in a car says, Mr. Ben Kaifala, how are you? Oh, I like what you do. But when she's ready to drive on, she says, now small. She's actually reminding me about the Machiavelli's problem. If my daughter or son is involved, you know, I have my children, they were going to private school, and I moved them from private school. They were at international school, and I moved them to Aniwash, to a public school. Two of them. And then one of them is taking Becker this year. And what I always tell them, even as children, they are only, the one is 12, the one is 14. I always tell them, let me tell you something. If you, for example, the one who is sitting Becker now, she said that she's going to sit Becker and she has the schools that she has imagined in her head and she's working. They are very brilliant students. They are doing very well. But I always tell them, if you fail me, I will never talk to somebody for you. I will never call a principal to say, admit my daughter or my son. I will never protect my daughter from the punishment of law if they fall victim. If there is a disciplinary measure that should face them, I will be sad as a parent for things to happen. But in my world, there are two things. Everybody should be accountable for their actions. Everybody should take responsibility for their actions. And that is why I am not a perfect man. And perfection is actually the enemy of good. But you do everything you can to do things right. So, you ask if my son is involved. I have sons, but they are young. They are not yet at that age where we can determine this. But remember that I told you, in my world, everybody is accountable for their actions. Even in my office, they know. The staff here know. You can come, you laugh and joke with me, and you say you are my friend. We've come from a long way. We went to grammar school together and everything. But when it comes to disciplinary issues, and your issue comes before me, do not expect any special favor. And that is what we all have to imbibe. And I'm not doing it because I hate you. I may perfectly like you. But Martin Luther King Jr. said, we should judge every man by the content of their character and their personal merits. So what you merit is what you get. And if we develop a merit-based society, like my brother now is saying, he's taking an exam and he thinks that he should get A, but he does not get A. Somehow, he has sat down and said that somebody else did not deserve A, but that person got A. Whether it is true or false, whether it is based on his judgment or not, whether it is the reality that he's presenting, as long as we do not build a society where it is based on merit, those types of questions will always arise. A woman does well, they say that woman, they not deserve her. A woman comes first in class, they say, they sleep with all the lecturers, they liar. A boy does very well in class, they say, that night they carry the professor the bag. Slebele. Because our society is skewed and we have a value judgment problem. And sometimes it is true, and sometimes it is not true. The only way we can change that is to create a society which all of us trust in. Trust deficit is actually the problem we have and we have to build it. And I'm very thankful that Professor is working very hard along with these very hardworking gentlemen and ladies of IPAM. And you students are also showing commitment and dedication for this. If not, you wouldn't have invited me and my team to come and speak to you today. So we are very grateful. We are very thankful, Madam Chairman. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen of this SAC, the ACC is with you. Let us go. Let us continue doing good for this country. I will stand with you. And I want you all to be examples at IPAM. Thank you very much for this amazing lecture. Thank you. What we do is we enter into an MOU with them, a memorandum of understanding, where they understand what we expect of them and what is expected of us. But what we do when we have these kinds of partnership with institutions is to support them to realize, for example, this program that is organized here now today, we sponsored it. We provided resources for it to happen. And we do that across the board for all our partners. So that is one way we can support them. We also conduct trainings for them. And we also advise and provide encouragement, mentorship to them so that they know what to do and they can be of value to the institution that they have established themselves. So there's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of collaboration and support that will be coming from us to the SAC at IPAM, and it is on an ongoing basis. And we assess what they are doing, and then we take part. The other question came, because the rest were comments, but the other questions, he said, what are we doing to minimize corruption in Sierra Leone? Now, a lot of systems are in place to minimize corruption. We have built the fight against corruption on 4 pillars: prevention, public education, investigation, and prosecution. And all of them are happening at the same time. So, like today, what we are having here is a public education session where we educate you en masse on the issues of corruption to have you change. Because it's not every day you are going to arrest everybody and put them in prison. Most of the corruption that happens, nobody even sees it. So public education is very significant, and we do a lot of it. We also do a lot of prevention work. We do what we call systems and processes reviews in institutions like IPAM. We come, we check their system to make sure that there is what we call corruption risk assessment to minimize corruption, so that most of the things that we would have investigated should corruption happen do not happen in the first place. So it's like an abortion. Okay? We also do investigation. We investigate the corrupt, and my brother said that he's not seeing anything, and the question I'm asking, where are you looking? Because if you are looking and following, even for the young people who follow my page, we are always putting indictments up. Not so, even yesterday I put up an indictment. Okay? We are always putting convictions to say this person has been convicted. Recently we have banned 2 sets of cases where people were banned from holding public offices for 3 years and 5 years. Not so, some of you saw those, not so. And even today, before I came here, we just completed one of the investigations. So we can't, the problem is because the society has grown into so much cynicism that sometimes they don't believe that something is happening. But trust me, a lot is happening. All you need to do as young people is to be glued to the anti-corruption page, to check our website, to follow what we are doing, and even the media. This morning, Mr. Blake, where is he? Was it SLVC? AYV, showing the interventions we are doing in various institutions, holding people accountable at very, very high level. And that is why in those days, our ranking in the world was very poor. We are performing very badly in every ranking in the world. For example, when I was appointed commissioner, the anti-corruption, the fight against corruption, Sierra Leone was ranked 131 in the index on the fight against corruption. 5 years down the line, we have jumped from 131 and we are 108. 108. We have jumped over 21 spaces in 5 years. So we are not yet out of the woods, but we are on our way to respectability. And we can only succeed in doing that with all your support. For example, Recently, it was announced that we have passed, we have won, we have been awarded, finally we have been awarded the MCC. Do you know that you cannot be awarded the MCC if you do not pass the fight against corruption indicator in that particular calculation consecutively or continuously? And that is why Sierra Leone was not passing. In 2017, before I was made commissioner, we failed. We were at 49%. Not so, Mr. Sandy? Yes. You were at the commission, not so? Yes. We were at 49%. Now, let me tell you, because of all the things that we are doing, Sierra Leone has consistently passed for the past 6 years with over 70%. 70% at IPAM. What is 70%? Is it not an A grade? So we are at A grade. So my brother, the question I have for you is, where have you been looking? Thank you very much.